It is the 24th Sunday of Pentecost, but it's not the 24th last Sunday. It is this year's, the 24th Sunday will be 27 Sundays after the first Sunday. So this is a fill-in Sunday, and the fourth, taken from the fourth Sunday after Epiphany. We'll be sitting in the epistle for this year's 24th Sunday, from the fourth Sunday of Epiphany. It's taken from St. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 13. Brethren, owe no man anything but to love another. For he that loveth his neighbor hath fulfilled the law. When thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not covet. And if there be any other commandment, it is comprised in this word: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love of our neighbor worketh no evil. Love, therefore, is the fulfillment of the law. In the Gospel. Matthew chapter 8. At that time, when Jesus entered into a boat, his disciples followed him. Behold, a great tempest arose in the sea, so that the boat was covered with waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and waked him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And Jesus said to them, Why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? Then rising up, he commanded the winds and the sea, and there came a great calm. But the men wondered, saying, What manner of man is this? For the winds and the sea obey him. That's what the word of today is all about. St. Jerome tells us that there are storms and there are storms. Miracles and miracles. And on this day, our Lord decides that there be a storm. But this storm is not for everyone. It is only for his disciples. And he's also going to show on this day, and he's in the sea, and he's going to be asleep on a boat. And this sleeping on the boat is to remind his disciples of that other man that slept. And his name was Jonah. Jonah slept in the midst of a terrible storm. And why did he sleep? Jonah was fleeing God. Jonah was told to preach the gospel, tell the Ninevites they were going to be punished by God, and he was afraid to do it. Therefore, he went as far as he could go away from the land of God, and he got into a boat. The boat went out into the sea, but Jonah was exhausted. He was completely exhausted. He was exhausted in spirit because he was trying to run away from God. He was afraid. He was weak, but he was a prophet. And he was so exhausted that he fell into a deep sleep, and there arose a great storm, so great a storm that they were going to die. But he was still asleep. Why was he still asleep? Because his exhaustion was so great. That he was afraid of his battle that he was having with God more than he was afraid of the sea. Therefore, the natural fear that came from a boat being tossed about, waves being thrown around, and Jonah being ready to die, it did not cause him fear, for he was not afraid of death, of the sea. He was afraid because of the battle that he was having with God. And he slept. The sailors came down and woke him up. Said, Why are you all asleep? Our ship is sinking. And then Jonah woke up and he said, Yes, there is a great storm. I recognized it immediately. As soon as he awoke, he recognized what was happening. And this is what is happening right now in the Catholic Church. When is Jonah going to awake? And he awoke, and he recognized there is a great storm. The ship is about to sink. They've thrown all the goods overboard. They've thrown out the Mass. They've thrown out the sacraments. They've thrown people out of the church. The churches are empty. They've thrown souls overboard. And the ship is sinking. And the ship is about to be crushed by the waves. The wind and the waves. And what is the wind and the waves? The wind and the waves, the wind is false doctrine. The wind are lies. And the waves are the passions. The wind kicks up the waves. It makes the waves rise very tall. The wind throws the waves upon the ship. The wind gobbles up all the woods that are on the ship, and they are dying, and they are perishing, and Jonah is asleep. Why is he asleep? He thinks if he's asleep in the bottom of the boat can quietly go away from the shore, and the boat can quietly go into a far land, and no one will notice, and God won't see that Jonas has slipped out of the night. But God raises a storm. Origen says, note the conversation at the end of the miracle today. Our Lord Jesus Christ is sleeping on his boat. The apostles raise him up, and Lord save us, we're perishing. He bids the wind and the sea to be calm. And then he says to them, why did you wake me, O ye of little faith? Now who does he give reasoning to? Origen says, notice that if these men had no faith, he would not reason with them. He would neglect them. Remember that when our Lord Jesus Christ went to Nazareth, he performed very few miracles because they didn't care and they didn't believe. He neglected them. But these men, they believe, but they're afraid. They're like the other man in the gospel. They believe, but they have to believe. St. John Chrysostom says, don't they know? In the storm, Christ saves. Does he have to be awake? He doesn't have to be awake. He can be asleep. They thought he had to be awake. They knew to come to Christ, so they have faith. But they thought he had to be awake, so they don't have enough faith. He arises and calms the sea. He tells them, all right, it is good that you woke me, or rather you called upon me, but you didn't need to wake me up. Where is your faith? And in this question of faith, he's speaking to his disciples. This firstly refers to the priests of the church, and secondly refers to all those that have entered the army of Christ and who are living in the state of grace and who are on the path to heaven. These are the disciples. The disciples are brought into the sea, says St. Jerome. The people are left on the land. It's safe on the land. It's not safe in the sea. Now he did miracles upon the land. Now he's going to do miracles in the sea. He did miracles on the land because he's the Lord of the land. Now he's going to show, I am also the Lord of the sea. They should know the Lord of the land is also the Lord of the sea, but they're not sure. They don't know. But he goes on to the sea. And in the sea, he shall calm the storm. And what about Jonas? Jonas is one of those disciples. When Christ slept, he slept because Jonas slept. There is something most sacred about Jonah, the prophet. But when our Lord Jesus Christ was about to die, he said, you shall see the sign of Jonah the prophet. For just as Jonas was 3 days in the belly of the earth, in the belly of the whale, the great fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days in the belly of the earth. And what's the rest of that sign? Jonas rose from that storm. What did Jonas do? When he woke up, which is the day we're waiting for in the Holy Catholic Church, when the priest wakes up, especially the high priest, who is the Pope, and the priests that are called bishops, and the simple priests. When are they going to wake up? Jonas is awoken, and though he is weak, and though he's afraid, and though he's run away from God, how long did it take him to figure out what the problem was? He woke up and he said, I recognize this storm. That's not a normal wave. That's not a normal wind. This storm was arisen by God. This is also made clear by St. John Chrysostom. They went out into a boat, these 12 apostles, and some other men perhaps on the boat. Others as well. They went out into a boat, they went across the sea, and there arose a storm. Who made the storm arise? Christ made it arise. Remember in the Old Testament, when did it happen that the Philistines became very strong, and the Amorites became very strong, and all the various enemies of God that attacked the Jews, the Egyptians, when did they all become very strong? Whenever the Jews forgot God, whenever they fell asleep, whenever they forgot God, whenever they went away from God, that is when the enemies became powerful. And what's the problem and what's the cause of the crisis of our Holy Mother of the Church down the last 500 years, and especially in the last 50 years? The priests are asleep, and also the disciples. That is, those who have faith. They're asleep. They're trying to go, they're afraid to repeat the commands of God. Go to Nineveh and preach those people. So many prophets preached. Jeremiah preached, they didn't listen to him. Isaiah preached, they cut him in half. Daniel's locked up and forgotten. The only one that believed him were the pagans. But Jonas preached, and the whole city converted. What made Jonah's preaching powerful? What changed Jonah? He ran away as a disciple, and St. John Chrysostom says, God allows his disciples to be tossed by the sea, to be thrown around by the waves, in order that they might know, if you are going to follow me, you will face temptations. You know that many young men come to the seminary. Many young men come to the monastery of religious life. Why do they come? Because the world is filled with temptations. And if I go to the seminary and I become a priest, if I go to the monastery and I become a monk, I won't have to deal with temptations. They don't sell drugs and the monks sell. They don't have bad, impure things going on. We take a vow of poverty, the monks do, and they don't have to worry about greed. And there's always someone watching over you to make sure you're good. So go to the monastery, go to the seminary, and you won't have temptations. In order that no one think this foolishness, this absurdity, Origen tells us, Christ brought his disciples into the sea, and he made sure there arose a storm. It was a very big storm. It was the biggest storm that had ever been seen upon the Sea of Galilee, upon the Lake of Gennesaret. The storm that they had seen before, when they were just fishermen, they were small storms. But they're on the same lake. They're in the same sea, but the storm is so much worse. Why? Because now they're disciples. Before they were not disciples, so there will be temptations that will come to those that are not disciples. And these shall be small. And there will be temptations that come to those that are disciples, and these will be great. But remember, our Lord himself said, and when temptations come, he will always give the strength to fight against them, the strength to conquer them. Every priest of God in the last 50 years, every bishop and the last popes, Pius XI on, We're given the grace by God to fight the modernists. Given the grace by God to defeat the enemies of God. Given the grace by God to conquer the Masons and the Jews and the bad guys that are trying to destroy the world. They did not respond, but they laid asleep in the boat. And as they laid asleep in the boat, the storm got worse, and the storm got worse. And people were saying, look at the church, it's being tossed by the sea. When is the priest going to wake up? When is the prophet going to wake up? It hasn't yet happened. Finally, these sailors went down, they woke up Jonah, and Jonah woke up and he said, what's the problem? The problem is me. The problem is I tried to flee God. The problem is I thought there was a place that God does not rule. I thought I could escape God. God made this storm arise because of me, and now you are all in danger of death. You would not be in danger of death. You would not have to throw your possessions overboard. There would not be this great and terrible crisis if I did not try to flee God, who cannot be fled. Therefore, you want the storm to stop? Cast me into the sea, and you will see that the storm will cease. He didn't want to do it at first, but Jonah insisted. Cast me into the sea. You will see, even though you don't believe in God, even though you're pagans, cast me into the sea, and you will see the storm shall cease. Your trouble shall go away. And they cast him into the sea. And as they cast him, they saw this great fish, this great whale, come up and swallow Jonah. And they all saw it. And he went back down into the sea. And when the whale, the great fish, went back down into the sea, the storm ceased immediately. And they all knew the God of Jonah is the God. And what did he say to them? You're the cause of this storm? And they drew lots, and the lot fell with Jonah. You're the cause of the storm? Yes, I'm the cause of the storm. Because my God is the God of the sea and the dry land. My God is the God who made the sea. Therefore he can cause a storm. My God is the God who made all the dry land. My God is the God who made all the heavens and the earth. Your gods are devils. They made nothing. Therefore cast me into the sea. And he told them, his God is the God of the sea and the dry land. What is the duty of the modern priest? First, he must recognize the cause of the crisis in our holy church is firstly the cause of the priest. It is the fathers that have failed. The fathers that have gone asleep, that have not guarded the fort. And there is a great crisis in the church because the fathers have failed. And when is it going to come to an end? When the fathers rise up and say we shall take responsibility. Because if we are doing our work, then the devil shall be defeated. He's not losing. God gave to the priest the powers that no one else has. When he lifts his hand and is able to exalt Wabakatis Tuis, the devil is thrown away. When he pours water on the head, the devil is driven out. When he says, this is my body, hoc est in corpus meum, this is the chalice of my blood in the New Eternal Testament, and so on. God enters earth against the will of hell, and he cannot be stopped. What is the trouble? The priests have lost their faith. Here we're referring to the good priests, not the bad ones. St. Jerome tells us these are the disciples that are on the boat. Those that are not disciples, they stay on the land. So the wicked priests and the wicked people and those that don't really believe in God, they stayed on the land. We're talking about the good priests. and the good people who really follow Christ, these ones don't really have faith. They have enough faith to barely sneak into heaven, but they don't have the faith that is demanded of them to be a true disciple. And then St. John Chrysostom says, that's why we see the only time in the gospel today, and the men were amazed. It doesn't say the disciples. Now there are two reasons why it says the men were amazed. Because they were never called, the disciples were never called men. That would be belittling them. The men were amazed and said, behold, the wind and the sea obey him. But what does St. John Chrysostom says? Well, there are other men on the boat. But if there were not, they deserved not to be called disciples, but only men. Because they had seen his miracles on the land, why can't he perform those miracles on the sea? They had seen his power in the driving out the devils. They saw his power. Then why did they doubt? If they doubted, they were no longer disciples. They were only men. And therefore, they are worthily and rightly stripped of their name of disciple and called only men. He says it's a derogatory word by the evangelist. The men. Disciples got into a boat. Men were amazed. Did they import people from Mars onto the boat? Pick up sailors in the sea? Drowning men in the sea? No. Disciples got on the boat. But then there arose a storm. And how many of them stayed disciples? They became weak. But God has not abandoned them. For they did not give up the faith. They were weak in faith. Therefore he said to them, why do you not know? Why do you trouble me, ye of little faith? At least they have a little faith. And now he's going to make their faith great. And St. John Chrysostom says, he also let them suffer a storm, that they might feel the tender mercies of God. Because you know that very often, as the priest of God is traveling through the world, he sees many miracles. Many souls coming back to the faith. Many cures and many miracles of the grace of God, working in this family and in that one, in this place and that one. And he becomes a kind of cold, says St. John Chrysostom. He begins to feel that, well, the miracles for the others, but he doesn't see any miracles for himself. He sees the mercy of God for others, but he doesn't feel the mercies for himself. And therefore, God allows sometimes there to be great trials and great fears and great tribulations amongst the just. And then he pulls them through that. And then that I might feel the tender mercies of Christ upon themselves. Remember that God never changed. In those first 6 days of this universe, at the end of each day, what was said? And God saw that what he did was good. At the seventh day, he looked over all the work that he had done, and he saw that it was all good. Everything he did was good. And at the very end of the world, all those souls in heaven with Christ are going to look back over 6,000 years of history and see that everything he did is good. Yes, these apostles are weak. They got in disciples. There arose a storm. They became weak and afraid. But what good thing did they do? They knew where to go. They knew where to go. They thought they could defend themselves against the storm because so many times they've been on the lake. But it's different now. Before you were a disciple of Christ, you had storms. But they were like storms in a teapot. Become a disciple of Christ and experience storms. Real storms in the great ocean. These storms aren't the same. But they are more powerful storms in one way. But Christ is with us. And what do? Go down to the bottom of the ship. Go down to the bottom of the ship. And there Christ sleeps. Go down to the bottom of the heart. when the worries are deep in the soul, go down to the bottom of the heart, there find Christ, and wait Him. And also consider this: why is there a storm? Because we are Jonas. Jonas are just plain bad luck. If you were on the boat, there'd be no stinking storm, but you're on the boat. And guess what? There's going to be a storm. Because wherever you go, there's a storm. You're bad luck. You're on the boat. So Jonah is on the boat, and there, of course, there arose a storm because Jonah is on the boat, and Jonah recognizes, yes, I'm the cause of the storm. For many storms are self-inflicted. Are these storms good? God allows them to happen in order to instruct us. Also, St. John Chrysostom says, He brings the disciples into the sea and lets the disciples become afraid. He lets the disciples wage war against the sea, and the people on the earth, they don't see it. For there are some battles that some men will never know. There are some worlds that some men will never visit. And they're in that sea where the people cannot see them, and they're in the darkness of the night, and they're experiencing a terrible storm, and they're afraid. And those that are wise will wait Christ. Go to Him. Now, in the whole crisis of the church today, our Lord Jesus Christ is waiting for a priest to awake. And it's a particular priest that's been named by the Blessed Virgin Mary. He's called the Holy Father. That priest must awake. Right now he sleeps. It is not only the bad Pope since Vatican II that slept, but since 1929, when the Blessed Virgin Mary said, consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and Pius XI refused. He slept. Pius XII, who called himself the Pope of Fatima, he refused. He was afraid. He slept. And all the popes since then have slept. And what has happened since the great St. Pius X? Imagine if he was a pope in 1929, and he was told to consecrate Russia in 1929, he would have done it at midnight on January the 1st. He wouldn't have waited till 1 o'clock in the morning. He would have consecrated right away, immediately, making the first work of 1929, to obey Mary, to obey heaven. And no matter what opposition there was, he would have stood against all of it. But the Lord took him to heaven in 1914. And so much changed in the remaining 15 years. And the next pope did not have faith. They slept. We must pray for Jonah to awake. He will awake. The Blessed Virgin Mary said it will happen. He needs to awake. Remember also Jonah, though he recognized that he was the cause of the storm, for a little while they tried to keep it a secret. Then they cast lots. And they drew lots because they knew this storm was too bad. Somebody is the cause of this storm. And they drew lots. And the lot fell to Jonah. And they said, what did you do? And one day the people of the world may wake up the Pope in that way. What did you do? You're responsible for all these homosexual laws. You're responsible for the abortion laws. You're responsible for the wars in the last 50, 60 years, 70 years. You're responsible for World War II. You're responsible for the development of trying to come in on World War III. You're responsible for the massive exodus of souls all over the world from God. You're responsible for the charismatic movement. You're responsible for the evils that are being spread like crazy by Islam and no one is stopping them. Who's responsible? Let's draw lots. It's Jonah's fault. The priest of God. And the particular priest, the Pope, the Holy Father. Awake. And also other priests, awake. And disciples, awake. Here we're referring to the good men, not those in mortal sin. good men. The trouble is, the ones that are not friends of the devil aren't friends of God either. They just get by. Just enough to sneak into the kingdom and barely get by. But the Lord wants warriors. The Lord wants lovers. The Lord wants those that are going to fight for Him. And sometimes it requires a storm. St. Peter did well in this storm. He was terrified. He was petrified. He woke Christ most vitally. Lord, save us, we're perishing. But then there came another storm not too long afterwards. And in that storm, Christ was walking in the storm. And Peter was in the boat. And what did the wise Peter do? It's a lot safer in that sea with him than the boat with these guys. He dumped them. He jumped into the sea. But wherever Christ is, that's where he's safe. And the fact is, we've lost our faith. Let's get it back. So have confidence in all the truths of the Holy Gospel, because everything God did was good. Was he really upset that day? Was he really upset? When they woke him, he had to pretend like he was upset. But in fact, he was not, because they woke him. He wants to be awoken. And when they woke him, there's also a reminder that one day we must awake the disciples. Priests are supposed to fight for Christ. Priests are supposed to spread the kingdom of our Lord. But sometimes it takes people to say, you're the cause of the problem. Sometimes it takes people to say, awake. It takes the prayers of men. And so we must pray for those prayers of men. Not only the Lord said, pray to the Lord of the harvest and laborers into the harvest. What about the laborers that are in the harvest? Many are like Jonas. Then Jonas then had to be buried in that well for 3 days. The scripture tells us he cried to the Lord, but not for deliverance. He just wept. And the Lord spat him out upon the land from which he came. He ran away a coward. When he got up from being inside that way, imagine the sight of those that saw him. Is that the prophet that got on the boat? Is that the prophet that went into the sea? He sure is different. He's so different. And here Christ teaches us, firstly the priests, and secondly all the faithful, the disciples. You cannot return the same way you left. Which is why it said to those 3 wise men, they went into Israel one way, but they returned to their country per aliam viam, through another way. Try going back the same path. You can put peas on the ground, put a little string, little dots, so you can find your way back. Try going back the same way after you met Christ. You will not be able to go back the same way. You will go back per aliam viam, through another way. Angel will come and speak to those 3 wise kings. Don't go back the way you came. You're different now. Go back another way. The enemies are waiting along the path. If you try to go back that way, go another way. And they went another way and became more wise. So it must be with us in this great supernatural battle against the devil, in the present crisis of the church. We must go back. Jonas went back. Went out on a boat, came back on a whale. Went running away, came back and preached. He told them the city was going to be destroyed. But they listened to his words and they did penance, and the city of Nineveh was not destroyed. And God repented his desire to destroy them because of the power of the preaching of Jonas. And they were saved. And so likewise, when our Lord Jesus Christ rose from the dead by the sign of Jonah the prophet, God the Father came down to condemn the Ninevites, that is, to condemn all of us. But then they repented. They were in sackcloth and ashes, and they listened to the word of Jonah, and he changed his mind, and we were not punished. So on the one side, it looks like a great weakness of those poor disciples, that they had a weak faith. But he wanted to teach them how to strengthen faith. He wanted to teach them how important it is to go through some trials, but it is never going to be too great. But they seem great. The waves seem so tall. They're covering the ship. The wind is so powerful. The ship is about to sink. Can it sink with Christ in it? Absolutely not. Stay with Christ. Go inside their heart and speak to Christ. And pray to the Lord of the harvest that the angels come and waken the heart of a wicked pope. And when that wicked pope is wakened by Christ, he shall arise and obey heaven. And when he obeys heaven, hell shall be in great terror. He shall obey the Blessed Virgin Mary, and there shall be a consecration of Russia, and there shall be a victory of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and there shall be a great conversion, and it shall not be stopped. It all depends on Jonah. It all depends on the disciples. So worry not too much about the enemies of God, how many they are. Worry rather about the friends that become weak in faith. And pray that those friends become strong again. And pray for the priests that they persevere in faith. And those that have wandered away from the faith, not referring to the wicked ones, but the good ones, that they get the strength to come back and be strong in the faith. And this defeats Satan and brings about the victory of the Blessed Virgin Mary, which must come to us soon. Bless you all in the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost.